Hello everybody, this is Earth.Otherwise, and welcome to Game Review. This game isn't ready for sale, but with a little work, Tier 1 can be an interesting game. As always, we'll start with the marketing. Now, Tier 1, as of recording this video, has been greenlit on Steam Greenlight, and the developer is working to make a full build to release on Steam. There is a Greenlight trailer, and that's good. Let me tell you what I think of it. I'll also link the trailer in the description so that you can look at what I'm looking at while I talk about it. Now, we start with some good cinema photography. Two small ships flying through space with some anticipatory music. Perfect, right in, you've hooked my attention. However, the first thing I notice is that it needs a bit smoother zoom. Perhaps there could be a zoom mode where you hold shift and zoom at a slower and smoother pace in the game, since I know that this trailer was probably made using actual game footage. Also, how do I get my game to follow the ships like that? That's a cool feature, and good for making YouTube videos, but I didn't actually see the options to follow a ship in the game. As the trailer goes on, though, I do notice a few things that could be improved. The trailer shifts its focus a lot without warning, and it needs to be clearer where we are supposed to focus on the screen. In fact, this should probably be implemented in the full game as well. Ships are difficult to see at medium zoom before the indicators pop up at further zooms. You should also feature some gameplay in your trailer, because I couldn't tell whether or not you were playing the game in the trailer, and some actual game screens, like with the HUD and such, would be nice. At the end of the trailer, you say vote for it on Steam Greenlight, and in the description of the YouTube video there's a link, but you should also add an annotation so that if people share the trailer on Facebook or Reddit, then they can click the annotation to go to the Greenlight page, which has already been greenlit, so you don't have to anymore, but when you make the full trailer it would take you to the Steam page, and the annotation would take them there without having to go to the YouTube video and then click on the link in the description of the YouTube video. Beyond that, the trailer did a good job of selling watching the game, though I'm not sure if it did the best job of selling actually playing the game. For example, having the battle take place in an energy cloud the entire time was probably a bad idea. The energy cloud makes the entire game look blurry and hard to read. You can solve this pretty easily just by making the ships easier to spot, especially in spectator mode, which is what I believe you were probably using to make this trailer. But overall, the trailer is good, I think. Now let's talk about the game it's advertising. Let's get this out of the way. The game is a buggy mess, and the AI could use some serious refining. Just from playing an hour of the latest build, I've encountered stuff like the default window having text that goes off the screen, sometimes the resolution options don't work, sometimes the main menu button doesn't work when you're in a battle, and the first tutorial can't be completed because the FTL drive won't engage. At least on my computer it wouldn't. This game could use some hard testing and refining to get rid of all, or at least most, of the game-breaking bugs. What isn't a bug, but should also be fixed, is the fact that I can't go to the options menu while in the game. Not cool. The options menu, as well as the ability to exit to the main menu and quit the game, should be accessible from every screen in your game. Tier 1 has the latter two, but not the first one. It's nitpicky, I know, but it's quality of life stuff. People expect to be able to do things like adjust their volume mid-game. If something can't be adjusted while in the game due to code, then just make a second options menu for game adjustment, which is a little extra work, but it's really nice to have. Now, into the meat and potatoes of the actual game itself. There are 3 things you can do in this game. You can pilot ships and fight against other ships, you can watch nice battles, and you can design maps in which you pilot ships or watch battles. Now, the only part of that that's an actual game right now is the piloting ships. But I wouldn't mind if watching the battles part was turned into a real-time strategy section, and the map editor could easily become some sort of puzzle where you have to figure out what ship composition would defeat the enemy ships that have already been put down, sort of like Totally Accurate Battle Simulator is now. But those are just ideas and suggestions. Let's look at actually playing the game as it stands now. You can go into one of the many scenarios, each having their own map, but you get to decide how many ships go on each map, how many respawns the AIs have, and how many respawns you have. I personally like to set the map so that the AI doesn't respawn and I get as many as I like, just so that I can keep playing during the entire battle. Thing is, though, that the game never told me that's what I was doing when I was moving the 3 sliders that pop up when you click on a scenario. I had to figure that out for myself. Really, 2 things should be done about scenarios. First, how they work should be tutorialized. And second, they should have a default setting. I would like to be able to click on a scenario and then click play and be able to play that scenario as the designer intended it to be played. And if I don't like it, I can tweak it from there. The tutorial should probably also include the use and an example of using every single button and feature in your game. I didn't know that there was a sniper button until I looked at the controls. I also didn't know there was a tertiary fire button. Really, what you as a designer should do is every time you put some new thing that a player can do in your game is make a quick tutorial for it. Yes, it's a lot of work, especially if you eventually end up taking that feature out, but hear me out on this. So you put this new thing in. Say it's a new way to fire your gun, and you've tested it out and you like it. So then you send this new build off to your testers, which you should have, even if it's just your friends and family, and you explain it to them, and they try it out, and you obviously record their reactions to it so that you know how people will react to the addition, and they like it. Good. So now you have this new feature. You should now make a little tutorial that teaches somebody new how to use this new feature, and then send that build off to somebody who hasn't used this new feature and see if they like it. This will accomplish 2 things. Firstly, it will make you think about how you expect players to use this feature. Secondly, since you've already had one batch of testers play with it, you probably caught a couple of bugs or unintended side effects of having it and either tweaked them out or made them features. And you would add any new features that you found out about into the tutorial. Finally, it will tell you that if someone who doesn't know about the feature plays the tutorial, they will be able to understand and use the feature. Now, that sounds like a lot of work, especially early on in development when you might be adding half a dozen features a week, and having to have them all tested, tweaked, and tutorialized will be a lot, and I mean a lot of work that you could be using to make more features. But the thing is, it doesn't matter how many features you have if no one knows what they are, or if they don't synergize with each other well. So you need to do testing, tweaking, and tutorializing whenever possible. Now, if you've done everything I just said, you will also have a tutorial for every single little feature in your game. Good. When you get near the end of development, all you have to do is put them together into one big tutorial, or sprinkle them through your game as the feature becomes necessary, and you have yourself a good tutorial system. Just remember to actually integrate the tutorial into the game so that the players actually have to do the thing that you're tutorializing, because you don't want to just tell them that they have a third fire button 1 hour in and then have them not use it for 2 hours and then have them need it because they'll have forgotten it. Make sure that you use your mechanics here and there, and if you abandon a mechanic because they were just part of a single section of your game, don't bring them up again 3 hours later when the player has forgotten about them, unless you put a safe space right before where they need to use the feature again to get to the area where they'll need it. Essentially, if you're going to use a feature for just one level, use it for just one level. If you're going to bring it up later, make sure they're still using it in between the time when they find out about it and the time when they'll need it. Wow, that's complicated. I hope you guys understand what I'm getting at. Now on to the actual gameplay. So, you loaded up a scenario, you've chosen your side, and you spawn in a ship. Let's say you pick a fighter because you want to go fast and shoot bullets. Okay, here's what you'll encounter. Fighter-on-fighter combat is a bit too fast to be done in a reasonable manner. I find myself flying past anything way too fast to aim at it reasonably. And if I go slow enough to aim at them, the AI can pick me off really easy. A good balance of this can be found in the homeworld games. The fighters aren't stupid fast, but they still last for a little while. To the end of hitting my target, though, the radar system is also super counterintuitive. I don't expect to have to go into a tab and then open a drop down to select a ship, and then once I've selected a ship, the radar dish on my ship points at that ship. I was kind of hoping for like an arrow on my screen, because I can't see that radar dish at medium zoom, and the lines that indicate things like orientation and the line of your ship haven't popped up at medium zoom. I would also appreciate if a single button would target a ship for me. Perhaps a button for targeting the nearest ship and another button for targeting a ship that the game thinks is the best target for me, if you want to implement that. Either way, the radar tab makes no sense to me, and it makes it more difficult to target ships than is necessary. Speaking of target lines and zoom, at long range, the lines that indicate ships and targets start to get dotted and blurry due to how small the computer is trying to render the lines. Maybe set some values that the lines stay the same general size at any zoom distance. I want to be able to zoom out and see the enemies so that I know where to go, but I can't really do that if all the lines are practically unreadable. Also, the zoom and how it works with the page up, page down, home, and end buttons, as well as with the mouse wheel, is a bit weird. Changing between using my mouse wheel and the buttons that are across the keyboard from where my left hand is resting just doesn't feel right. Rather, the zoom should scale with how far out you are zoomed. The farther out you are zoomed, the faster you zoom in or out. And the closer to your camera is not your camera, your ship. The closer to your ship the camera is, the slower you zoom. It makes it so that it doesn't take rolling your mouse for 5 minutes to see the enemy, and you are also able to get back to your ship quickly, because using the home button zooms in way too much, and I just want to essentially have a few views that I can quickly go into. In fact, get rid of the manual zoom altogether, except for when you're zoomed in so that you can actually see your ship. Just have everything larger than that be 2 or 3 levels, local space and as far away as possible, because you can't really coordinate your ship at that zoom, so it's really just for looking around. And if you look around, you'll probably notice that the ships are blocky, single color, and generally done in a style that tells you that the dev isn't an artist by trade, which is fine. Some comments I saw were complaining about the art, but fuck the art. This is a game. I play freaking Dwarf Fortress. I don't care about the art. I care about the game being fun. Nobody complained in Super Mario that Mario looked like crap, because the game was fun. A good game can overcome bad art. Certainly, good art will make the game better, but making a fun game takes priority. You can handle the art later. So, back to fighter combat. If it's hectic for me, then what about frigate combat? Well, it's better. I can hit my targets at least, but it comes with its own problems. It feels weird when you only control one ship when there are dozens of ships all around you and they're just sort of doing their own thing. I almost feel like this would be better as a strategy game, because here I am, a single frigate in no formation with no orders, just expected to what? Charge the enemy horde and dash myself on the rocks? I don't know the AI's plan, so how am I supposed to help? Maybe if I was given orders, or if I had a body of ships supporting me, or that I could support, or if I was actually in control of a couple of the ships and I could do my own thing, then it would feel more as if I were actually playing the game and participating in a big war and not just some random motherfucker sitting on the sidelines. As it is, watching the game is cool from spectator mode, but actually playing the game can be both frustrating and boring. Right now, Tier 1's a pretty good watch lots of ships shoot each other simulator, but it's not a very good game. So how do we take this interesting interesting concept with not very good gameplay and make it ready for sale to the masses? My suggestion is to make it so that players understand what is expected of them. Give them an objective that they can work with. Give them some AI that they can work with, or maybe command. Maybe give the player control of all the ships and let it be a real-time strategy game. So, what is Tier 1, and what do we learn from it? Tier 1 is an excellent idea for either a simulation puzzle game, a real-time strategy game, or a fun space piloting game. But it needs to choose one of these things and make a good game out of it before the developer can either release the game or move on to the next project. What we learned is that even if your game looks cool, it still has to feel cool to play. Otherwise, you're just making something that's fun to watch. Always, always focus on the actual playing of your game over everything else. However, this doesn't mean ignore the other parts of your game. Ideally, your mechanics, story, and aesthetic will all flow together and complement each other. But if you fall flat in the gameplay department, it's going to be felt the hardest. So always make sure that you're doing best to make your game an experience that people want to have. In its current state, Tier 1 is not acceptable as a product which you pay for. However, there is a good game in there, and with some work, particularly in the quality of the actual play experience, it could be a neat little space combat simulation. This has been Earth.Otherwise. Thank you for watching.